Hey everyone, this is Street Questions with John Kennedy. All right, man. John Kennedy.
How we doing, George?
Good buddy. Okay, John is the founder of Mesa. He works at Panorama. Him and I are actually both going to be speaking at the Panorama Education Aim for Impact, Future Ready Schools, Future Ready Students conference coming up. It is a free virtual experience. I will leave the link down below. And John and I were talking, and this guy is like half my age and has done about 1,000 times more things that I've done. So pretty impressive, and does some really great work. And he we were talking about this before. One of the things he said, a lot of the stuff that he actually started when he was in high school. And we'll talk a little bit about that, kind of what that experience was like. But John, if you could just kind of introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do today, how you got there, great place to start.
Yeah, thanks, George. Really excited to be here. I'm John. I'm from Texas, Georgia, live in North Carolina now, but I lead a lot of our AI solutions work at Panorama. For that, I was a founder CEO of Mesa, which became part of Panorama 2 years ago, is now Panorama Pathways, which automates graduation tracking on top of all of the great work that we do. I also, on the side, work for Clean Air K-12. So if you're a teacher looking to improve your indoor air quality, you can apply for a free DIY air purifier kit to build it with your kids. But most importantly, I'll be speaking at the Aim for Impacts Summit with you, George, on February 6th. So really excited about that and appreciate the conversation. Chance to
Well,
have me on.
it's awesome. All those incredible things that you started, but the thing that you ended with is that you'll be speaking with me. So maybe feel
I'm
pretty good.
I'm lucky. I mean, you'll be there. I'll be there. We got a lot of other great speakers. It'll be fun.
Well, what are you talking about there? What's the focus of what you'll be talking about? I know you and I were talking about this, prior to pressing record. You do a lot, a lot of work with artificial intelligence. Is that like an emphasis of your session? What will you be talking about?
Yeah, George. Nobody's talking about AI. We need more AI.
Right, right,
We need
right.
but we know that there's so much hype and noise around AI, and at Panorama, we're trying to offer districts and schools something that works the way that they do, something that takes all the promise of whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or any of these great off-the-shelf introductory tools that you're using, and something that is actually like integrated with your real student data, something that's SOC 2 secure, something that works the way that you do, has the view of the whole child so that all the things that you're excited about using AI doing, you can actually do those in a secure, purpose-built environment. And this is, I mean, AI it feels new, but we've been trying to make technology more intelligent as long as we've been making technology. Like, George, do you know the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Lab? When do you think that was founded? Who do you think was president when that was founded?
I haven't. Well, John Kennedy.
John Kennedy. It's 1963. It's that
I
old.
knew that was. I knew you were going to bring that up. That's
Yeah,
good. I was wondering.
it's like 61 years old. Stanford
Hmm.
Artificial Intelligence Lab. So we've made some really incredible progress in the technology of AI. This generative AI, the large language models that folks like OpenAI and Google and Anthropic through their Claude product are coming out with. But at the end of the day, it comes down to how can districts adopt it? How can it align to the way that we already work? How can we, how does it work the way that we work?
Well, so one of the things I'll be talking about at the conference, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, is you utilize the term smart technology. So one of my concerns, and I think we should always have, like, we shouldn't just like go all in on something, is that the smarter the technology, the dumber we can become, right? So here's an example of this, and this is something I talk about quite a bit. I had a John, this is before you were born. This is not even close, right? It was an Apple IIc. Have you ever seen this computer?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so the Apple IIc, to get that computer to do anything was really, a challenge. And, I'm talking when I was probably 8, 9 years old. I think it came out in 1984. And I actually knew how to program. And the reason I knew how to program is because you could not get that computer to do anything unless you actually knew some programming. And so then you go to the first iPhone. And one of the questions I ask people all the time is like, do you remember the instruction manual for the first iPhone? People are like, oh yeah. I'm like, no, you don't, because it didn't exist. There is no manual, because they made it so intuitive that people actually wouldn't have to, they could just press buttons and it would say like, do this, whatever. And so as one of the questions that I'll be talking about at the conference is, are kids better at technology than we were at the same age? And people are like, of course they are. I'm like, well, not necessarily, because reality is that the technology is so much better that you don't have to be that good with it, right? Whereas like I thought I was pretty good with technology, but I don't think I do program an Apple IIc. So, you talked about, you created, started a company when you were basically in high school, but AI wasn't as much of a thing, probably wasn't prominent in your life at that time. What do you think would be changed now? Like if you were a high school student and now you had access to all of these things that, schools are leveraging, what would that, like you already started a company, so I don't like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know what you would have done then, right? So like what would it change for you at that as a student, do you think?
Yeah, I learned to code because I saw The Social Network, and when that came out, I was 11, and it was like there's that throwaway line that
Like
in The
Doogie
Social Network.
Howser. Do you know Doogie Howser is?
I'm from Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah, uh,
Okay, I'm just saying.
I
Jeez.
don't
Cool.
I'm terrible with blood. Don't ask me to do any sort of medical
Okay,
procedure.
I gotcha.
Um,
Doogie Howser and
the
coding. I gotcha.
Sure. The Social Network came out, and there's a throwaway line where and this doesn't age. I mean, he's like maybe not acting in best faith when he's trying to like scrape all like the photos on like everybody else's pages. But it's like this throwaway line that I whipped open Emacs to uh, throw together a Perl script to scrape an Apache server. And I was like, great, that's what I have to learn. And so that's I bought like some used textbooks. I mean,
Really?
there's these, yeah, and they were super cheap because that scene was set in like 2003, and so I was learning already like a decade dated skill set, and taught myself how to code. Was really interested in not like the algorithms and the optimization part of it, but the getting solving problems for people part of it, and getting code out there and building solutions that solve real problems. And that led me to a high school principal who basically said like, why hasn't anybody built software to automate graduation tracking? And I've got counselors that are just checking transcripts, making sure kids are on track to graduate. This process is really painful. It sucks. We're just using binders to do it. We should be able to use software to do it. Does anybody know how to solve this? He asked somebody who knew me, and that ended up being the spark that started the company. But if that were the case
Wow.
now, you can just ask ChatGPT how to do that. ChatGPT will tell you how to write code. It will write code for you. I think Claude has this, or you can use a more purpose built solution like Replit, where it'll run the code for you and show you an output. And I believe like the point of technology is to give us leverage over our own lives. Improve the capacity that we have to have leverage over our own lives. You go back 200 years before the Industrial Revolution, 96% of Americans worked in agriculture. Now that's like 4%. So we've used machines to do all this manual work and extend our lifespans. Things like childhood mortality has plummeted, but the white collar industrial like knowledge work that we do now has the opportunity to be streamlined, and that's really powerful. And like you can go just do that. So if you're motivated to solve a problem, you can just ask ChatGPT how you might consider solving it. And the barriers now are not the
Hmm.
knowledge. It's not the knowledge. It's not even now like the technical ability. It's just the catalyst. It's the willpower. It's the attention. It's the actual like you know purpose and desire to go do something.
It's absolutely amazing. I don't know how you know all this stuff. This is absolutely amazing. I'm curious. I know you started Mesa when you were in high school. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Did you go to college?
I am a proud graduate of UNC Chapel Hill. Go
Okay,
Tar
you did go to
Heels.
college.
I did. I was very lucky to get a full ride. And my grandmother says I'm a seventh generation Tar Heel. I'm not sure exactly how that's true, but you never want to question your grandmother on things like that. So yeah, I loved my time at UNC. My parents thought it was very important that I get a degree, but for me, I learned more in those 4 years. But I graduated as fast as I could. Like I
Right.
had credits coming in. I took like online courses before COVID. I took a ton of online courses during COVID, and then I just tried to get out as quickly as possible to focus on the company I was working on. But I learned so much more in those 4 years outside of class just by growing up with a group of peers than I did inside of class. So that college experience for me was really valuable And I'm really glad I spent 4 years of my life in Chapel Hill. It was really impactful for me.
Okay, unpack that a little bit because here's something that I've really kind of wanted to challenge people about, and you are actually the example of this. So one of the things I often say is that if you know if your top academic students, and I'm assuming did very well academically, right? And I don't say smartest. I'm not saying you're not an incredibly intelligent, obviously way smarter than I am, but you sometimes I think we decide certain kids are intelligent because of the things that we measure in school, but some kids are really brilliant, but not on what we're measuring. And so that's something that really focused. And one of the things I challenge people is that if your top academic students could get out of school as soon as possible, would they? And if they would, do they see value in what you're actually doing? So when you're talking about like, what was the thing that you found really valuable in your college experience that really kind of led to some of the stuff that you're doing today?
It was the people that I was around. It was the formative experience for me of growing up with a set of peers that were interested in really smart things. Not that I didn't have that in high school, but
Yeah.
when I think of, when I think of what you're talking about, there's there's a category thing that for everybody, they can spend a lot of effort on it, and to them it feels effortless,
Mhm.
right? Like for me, I would, when I was in high school, I would just stay up late at night working on software,
Right.
and I was working really hard on it, and I did not feel like I was expending a lot of effort. It was effortless. It
Flow.
was a
You were in flow.
the word I was about to say. It was a flow state,
Yeah.
and I think so much of how we can design instructional environments, design educational systems, design at our lives should be oriented around that set of flow. One of the books that changed my life was Christopher Alexander, The Timeless Way of Building, where he actually talks about how the environments around us, how you can build specific places with patterns that enable that set of flow. And kind of it access, like the first third of the book is all, he defines this quality without a name, that is basically the quality in which humans are in flow state, and the quality in which we can be our most authentically ourselves. And there's environments that can bring that out of us.
Mhm.
You walk into a room and the lights off and you just don't feel good. Like you walk in a room, things we do with Clean Air K-12, and the indoor air quality is really bad. Maybe like it's really humid and you can't think. Like literally, like
Right.
when you're breathing polluted air, you are slower and dumber. Or and it's at
Hmm.
Panorama, we help folks understand like how their students are doing and how we can support them better, and like what are the places in which we can bring the best out of them. But it all comes down to like, how can you, or like today, do the thing that feels most effortless.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I think there's going to be a correlation to what you're talking about and what I'm talking about, and I think it's more about who you are and what you have created through your process. Because one of the things that I really advocate for is when our students walk out of our schools, um, do we want them all to be good at the same thing, or do we all want them to be good at something, and finding that flow state and that ability to create something that's really meaningful to them? And there's so many more opportunities in what you're in, like what you do today, than there was when I was in school, when I was in high school at the same age. So when you're doing your session, at Panorama, and again, the link is down below, totally free opportunity, by the way, right? Am I right? TK tour is free. I don't want to be
You're
like,
absolutely,
okay.
no, anybody can join. We'd love for you to see it.
Yeah, so please, join. There's still, I think right now we're recording this. It says about 14 days. So by the time you're listening to this, is about a week away. What is like one big takeaway that educators, administrators would get from your session at the conference?
Yeah, there's so many AI tools out there, and there's a overwhelming amount of discussion and hype and speculation and noise. And the thing that I'd encourage folks to think about is, what is how can we build AI into our lives the way that it works, that we work.
Mhm.
There's, I'll say, there's really only a handful, if you like kind of look at behind the scenes, like who's building the actual technology that powers this AI. There's only a handful of companies, and I mentioned them. It's like OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, that are building the models. All the companies or products or tools that you see are about building them in new ways that like offer new applications of it. And when you're looking at the AI landscape, the question to ask is like, what can fit into my day the best and give me the most leverage over my day, over my, with my team, over my school as a leader, thinking critically about how to design my AI implementation. There's tools that you can design that you can offer out of the box at Panorama, Solara. We have the what we think is like the leading district purpose-built application, which already integrates with district SIS data, district assessment data. You can build custom tools around your own existing PD or PowerPoint. So the idea is like the things that you're trying to struggle to do, the things that feel really tedious, the things that very definitively do not feel effortless, the things that are painful that you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. Like if you had an infinite army of graduate students, what would you hand them? That's your AI opportunity right there.
Right. So I actually, there's a no relation to you. There's a guy, his name is Chris Kennedy, and he's a superintendent in West Vancouver. He does a lot of artificial intelligence at the superintendent level, and it really does some really interesting things. But he wrote a post, and I'll link it down below, recently, and I challenged something that he said. And him and I have known each other forever, and he talked about that now, like a lot of the students, instead of like spending all of this time putting slides together, creating PowerPoints, creating whatever slide decks, they could actually get AI to do that, create it for them, and then they could spend more time having discussion, really thinking about the process. And the challenge I had for him is I present all the time, and I don't want AI doing that stuff because my presentation, it's an art for me. You're basically, what you're talking about, flow. I just did a new presentation at FETC last week, and I spent 6 days building it. Like it wasn't just I threw a bunch of slides with quotes on them. I thought about like the flow of the presentation, what's the emotional connection to this, in a way that AI can do this. So I can understand, like for somebody, that might not be of interest to them. Whereas I'm not comfortable speaking an hour without any visuals. That's just not my style. And I was thinking about this. Two of my favorite bands of all time are the Avett Brothers, who are actually from North Carolina. They're like,
Sure.
Scott Avett is like, I love him. His voice is so powerful. I've seen them in concert, and they just sing. They just sing, play music.
Yeah.
Incredible, incredible. And then I go to Coldplay. Coldplay is one of my favorites. Their concert is a totally different experience. Lots of visuals, and it's not AI. So it's kind of like, for one, one is very different, but they're both powerful. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because I think sometimes what we see as like a monotonous is actually somebody's art, right? Somebody's flow state. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think, well, first, congratulations on your taste. I've seen both of those artists live, and you're absolutely right. No, I saw Coldplay at the Toyota Center in Houston, and it's like
Incredible.
this overwhelming, it's incredible, overwhelming,
Yeah.
like just visual experience. And
There's certain songs that I like better because I saw them in concert, and the thing that they did with them, I was like, what? Like, now I hear the song and I think about the experience, not the song. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to start to see a backlash to AI coming, where folks are like looking to see something as authentically human as possible. I think we might in the future see almost like organic products with the same labeling as like no AI, all human. There's going to be a value to that.
That's interesting.
And yeah, well, and I think that like not all AI is created equal. It will be as vague as you let it be. It will be as specific as you ask it to be. And behind the scenes, the way that these models work is they're taking an immense amount of training data, like basically all the public facing data on the internet. We can do this now because compute power is so cheap. You can just throw a bunch of servers at it for not nearly the money that would take a decade ago. And you can create something that is going to effectively like complete your sentence. Be like the best way to create a lesson plan for, a seventh grade class talking about the Civil War, would be X. And it would fill that out. But by definition, that content is average.
Right.
Because it is taking the average, the median, the expected of all of this. we have so many valuable characteristics as humans that are not average. And that's the value of, an educator in person, is being able to bring that out. And so again, this is why I think it's like an implementation problem. Like AI is going to keep getting better. Like today, as you were listening, this is the worst that any AI system will ever be. It's only continue that people are throwing more money at it. Today we saw the announcement from OpenAI that they are building $100 billion investment, building $100 billion system with NVIDIA, with Oracle. There's just going to be more advancement, more money thrown at this problem, and things are going to get better. What's up to us is the implementation of it, and how do we build it to where it works the way that we work. And at Panorama, that's what we're thinking about at a district level.
Well, listen, I didn't know you before this, but I can't wait to see your session. So you're kind of blowing me away. This is absolutely incredible. So make sure that you connect with myself, John, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, the Aim for Impact, Future Ready Schools, Future Ready Students. With Panorama Education, it is February 6th, 2025 from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific. I'm excited. I'm like presenting, but I'm going to skip my session. I'm just going to come to yours.
I've got great news.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going, hey, here's what John said. Just listen to John.
George, I've got great news. We've structured it in a way to where you can attend both. I think I'm presenting a couple hours before you are.
I'm just gonna say what you said. You just gave me a lot more free time. Why would I use artificial intelligence like I use John intelligence? That's my new thing. JI.
I'll be presenting with our chief technology officer. We've got Sarah J from Boston Public Schools. We're district wide in Boston with our AI solution Solara. So we're really excited, George. Really excited to have you there, and thanks for having me on today.
All right. Okay, John, make sure you connect with John. You'll see his LinkedIn down below. You'll see the conference down below. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you all have a wonderful day.